Hey, St. Joseph's, it's day 13 of the consecration. And I think at this point I'm just going to stop doing the daily reading them here for you because chances are if you ordered the book, you have it on the way. If that's a problem to someone, please tell me and I'll just go back to reading them, or I'll do 2 videos or something like that. But just so I can say something that maybe will get the attention of people who aren't following the consecration, or for those who are following and they just want kind of some help with some insights, I'd like to just supply some of the little things that I've learned in my theology studies to maybe help with just some ideas here. So first off, this day's reading is pretty basic and simple, and I'm realizing that when you read this book, the daily readings are pretty simple, but it's those secondary readings that really add a lot of meat and kind of keep blowing my mind. So today is called The Foster Father of Jesus, and the real kind of push behind this, once again, is that Joseph is just this perfect model of a father, and then in kind of a Jewish culture, Joseph would have been important because he would have been Jesus' legal father. So he would have given him a name, and he would have also given him the idea of the Davidic bloodline, right? Well, he wouldn't have, legally, Jesus would have to be in the bloodline of David, he would need to be legally under it too, and that's where Joseph comes in, even though the book does talk about how Mary was probably in the bloodline of David as well. But what I want to talk about, the really thing that kind of blew my mind, was this idea of the secondary reading that Joseph was a perpetual virgin. That's something that I had never really studied, and just because I had never studied it, I had heard that maybe Joseph was a widower. He had another wife before, and he had children with that Mary, and so, or that other woman. I'm sorry, not the other Mary, but he had children before Mary. And that, that might explain Jesus' brethren in the Bible or something like that. And I just thought, sure, I'm fine. I never really thought much about it. But this chapter really convinced me that, no, I think the idea that Joseph is a perpetual virgin has plenty of kind of force behind it to believe. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, the idea that Mary is a perpetual virgin, that she remained a virgin not only before Jesus, but even after Jesus, is dogma of the church. It was defined as dogma in the Lateran Council in 649. So it's actually required to be believed by Catholics. But what's interesting is it seems like through most of church history, until actually kind of recently, this wasn't something of great dispute. You see certain people like Jerome defends the idea that Mary is a perpetual virgin in the late 300s. So obviously he's disputing with someone. But it was never this major force of belief in the church. And if I'm correct, I need to look this up. I shouldn't say in a video on YouTube if I haven't looked it up, I guess. But I'm pretty sure Martin Luther himself, the founder of the Protestant Reformation of Lutheranism, he believed that Mary was a perpetual virgin as well. Now, one thing that a lot of people bring up when talking about Mary's perpetual virginity is that doesn't the Bible say that Jesus had brothers and sisters? And that can be explained, we could go really in depth, and there's some great resources out there on this topic. Actually, I've mentioned it before, but if you've never read it, there's a great book called Jesus and the Jewish Roots of Mary by Brant Petrie, and it's a wonderful book. He's got one that's also Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist, which came out before the Mary one, and they're both just phenomenal and mind-blowing. And, sometimes I think I can be like, oh, I have a theology degree, they're not going to teach me anything, these simple little books. And then I'm like, wow, I think I learned more in this little book than I've learned in a long time. So I definitely suggest getting the books. They're very easy to read. But he talks in the book about how, well, he says a lot of things, but one is the word employed for brethren here, adelphoi in Greek, can actually be used to mean kind of a wider family lineage than just brothers and sisters. It can mean close relative, cousin, kinsman. It's probably, these are my brethren. Even today we might say that in a slightly loose sense to mean close relatives. And it seems like that's the case in the Bible. In the Old Testament, they used the word to describe the relationship between Abraham and Lot, which was uncle and nephew. So they weren't brothers, but it uses that same word that it uses to describe someone like James and Joseph to Jesus in the Bible for Abraham and Lot, and they are uncle and nephew. Also, some of the people that are described in the Bible as Jesus' brethren are James and Joseph, as I just said. And it's interesting that in one section it refers to them as Jesus' brethren, right? And that's in the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew. I'm sorry, I should have had my Bible out. If people find this interesting, I'll start being a little more thorough. In the beginning of Matthew, it describes, isn't this Jesus, the son of Mary and the brother of James and Joseph? And then at the end of the Bible, at the cross, it describes Mary, the Virgin Mary is at the cross, Mary Magdalene's at the cross, and also Mary, the mother of James and Joseph. And so you see this moment where we actually see the brethren of Jesus described as the children of another Mary. And in another gospel, in the Gospel of James, it also refers to that Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, as the mother, wife of Clopas. So it seems here that it's pretty clear that these people aren't the blood brothers of Jesus, but actually the siblings. Something else Catholics like to bring up is Jesus wouldn't have entrusted Mary to John at the cross, right? Like, son, behold your mother, mother, behold your son. He wouldn't have entrusted Mary to John so that Mary would go live with John. If he had other siblings, it wouldn't be John's legal responsibility. It would be their responsibility to take care of Mary if Jesus had siblings that survived him. So it seems just from those two little brief things, because I don't want this video to be too long, that Mary, the scriptures support the idea that Mary was a perpetual virgin. But the idea of Joseph, if we know that these children weren't the children of Joseph from a previous marriage now, because they're the children of another Mary, then was Joseph a perpetual virgin? What blew my mind is in this reading, he quotes several church fathers, some major figures here to support this idea, and I just want to, go through the list. And I went from like, I don't know about this idea to, holy moly. I mean, he quotes St. Augustine, St. Jerome. Jerome just says Joseph also was virginal through Mary in order that from a virginal marriage, a virginal son might be born. Francis de Sales, St. John Henry Newman, who is just declared a saint. And then my favorite, St. Thomas Aquinas. So he's got all of these huge figures, and Fulton Sheen. So all of these huge figures who are saying not only is Mary a perpetual virgin, but it seems like Joseph himself was a perpetual virgin, and that this marriage was one of complete sacrifice to God, of kind of the fruits of marriage, and from it came Christ, and I just think that idea has really kind of altered the way I view Joseph in a very profound and beautiful way. So I offer that to you. Let me know what you think. Send me a message or in the comments, and God bless.